Good morning. It is Thursday, September 14th, 2023, and it is 7:08 in my locale. I haven't made a video since Monday when I had to go to town, which was awful. I will just call it exactly what it is. It was awful. Miserable. Absolutely miserable. Not as bad as the time I had to go to the bank, but pretty darn bad. And it seems that every time I go to town, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. I don't know how many times I had to say, look, I'm born in America. We speak English here. I have no idea what you're saying. At least a dozen times. It was really, really bad. The last couple of days have been, pretty tough. Tuesday I did some studying when the internet was not up and down, because remember, the way you know that the world is crashing is when basic services seem to just not work, which is what's happening with the internet today on my computer, but not on my phone. So that's kind of weird. Then again, my computer did do an update, which, updates now, remember, everything's backwards. Updates are downgrades. That's exactly what they are. Okay, yesterday was detail houseboats. My general manager had himself a tantrum over something, and then my boss, he kicked the puppy down the hill, because that's what babies do, and then we had to deal with that. Okay, so very fortunately, detailing a houseboat is like detailing a car, and you get to do your OCD, and I did pressure washing and scrubbing things out, and it wasn't bad. Found some issues, had to report to my boss, but not really crazy sauce. Today I got to go to work, and once I go there, it's going to be the two houseboats that were in dry dock. One is already in the water. The other one is coming into the water today, which gives me all the time in the world today to go and check all of them again, even though I cleaned them on Sunday. The two that were in dry dock I washed on Sunday, but now it's detail work and making sure things look good, and I might be able to pressure wash the other one before it gets in, because they all need to be pumped out. Well, the last two need to be pumped out, and they need water added. Okay. But that's basically it. And the dogs are good. I was very sore when I woke up this morning, and I was sore when I went to bed last night. I slept for about 9 hours because my back, my shoulders, I was up, down, everywhere, picking stuff up. I was, definitely feeling all of my age when I went to bed last night. Feeling much better now because I got some rest. And let's see what else. Still studying, still doing all of that. I was doing that a little bit last night. And now what's going on is I am just tired. That's all I guess. I am tired. And Friday I'm going to have 4 people coming. 4 different sets of guests, 4 different houseboats. So that's going to be a little more exciting for me. While I'm waiting for my internet to reconnect, we're going to do our daily rune pull. There you go. That's our movement. That's the rune of movement. Cart and horse. Makes a lot of sense given what's going on with me now. Transit, transition, movement of physical shifts, new dwelling places, new attitudes, new life. Movement in the sense of bettering or improving a situation. Growing through numerous shifts and growth. A relationship has to go undergo changes to maintain growth in life. Really, guys? Moral effort and steadfastness. As I cultivate my nature, let all else follow. The rune symbol is the horse. An inseparable bond between the horse and the rider. You have achieved a measure of safety in your position. It's time to turn again and face the future, reassured and prepared to share the good fortune that comes. No. I earned it. It's mine. The sharing is significant because it relates to the sun's power to foster life and illuminate all things with its light. No. When I gave everybody my light, I got kicked. Now it's mine again. I'll give it to whoever I choose. That is how you read a rune. Now again, I'm waiting for my... I have no internet, it says. Let's check out the hotspot. No, it says I should have internet. It'll give me a minute. So, let's, again, Bodhi's awake, Queso's asleep. So we're not going to show them today. I am going to say that I did some thinking this morning when I woke up. And my thought was, gee, you're really not moving the ball forward. Gee, how many people are watching you every day? Very few. Gee, are you contributing when you go into a space? Jax is a great example. And the answer is, not really. There's been some controls put on those spaces where now I'm not contributing. And I don't have 1,000,000 hours a day to get pushed into a corner. Oh, you can say what you want over here, but no, you can't say what you want over... No. My name is Carl. I will say what I want, where I want, how I want, to who I want. Your opinions and everything else can hit the skids, because that's the way it works. So if I am not contributing, and we're not moving the ball forward here, and even more importantly, we're not generating conversation, which means we're not cycling forward into our lifelong learning process, then I'm going to fall back on my favorite phrase. If I'm talking and you're not listening, then why am I talking? Go do it yourself. I'll go have a cup of coffee. Now, I will admit I'm a little irritated because yesterday was, and I got an email, it was the anniversary of, and I can't say it's an anniversary, it was just a memoriam of the death of my mentor. And his name was Paul. And he was the smartest man I ever met. Paul taught me more about how to appropriately use your emotions and your logic to make effective decisions for multiple people. He taught me a lot about leadership. He taught me a lot about family. And I miss him to tears. I think about him every day. He was the man that was very, very good to my daughter. And he was very, very good to me. And the result of him being a good man was they treated him very poorly. And they attempted to railroad him, for lack of better terms, because he was an earth shaker, not a caretaker. And it did not, even though they proved that he was completely innocent, it was too late. They had already smeared his name in the court of public opinion. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Accusations first, and then the quiet, oh, well, we were wrong. We see that all the time now, don't we? I will tell you two very small stories before we decide how we're going to move forward with this channel. One of the worst days in my life was the domestic attack by our government, for lack of better terms, on this September 11, 2001. I had an infant daughter, and my wife at the time was working about 10 miles from where I was standing. I was in a building, and I was in a geographic core of the building. There was no wireless, no internet. It was a long time ago. I came out and find people crying, and I went, why are you all crying? They took me over to what is called the student lounge. You know, place that students could hang out. We had computers for them to study. We had a television, that type of thing. Little refrigerator, right? And that's when I saw what was going on. And I walked into my boss's office, and he had it streaming. That's how long ago this was. That was a new technology. He had it streaming, and I looked at him and I said, what are we going to do? And he said, what we always do. He said, we have to be empathic with them. We have to hold them together, and we know some of them are deeply or personally affected, and we have to manage that as much as possible. And I said, okay. The only thing I wanted to do is get my infant daughter and my wife home, lock the door, and say, that's it. Very instinctual thought process. So that was a very rough day for all of us. The follow-up for that was when he called me into his office, and he said, listen, we got to do something. I said, all right, let's do something. And his do something was the Patriot Act. He wanted me to go around to all 31 of our scientists and make them sign a piece of paper to say that they weren't doing something, even though I knew all 31 of them were never dealing with any of this. And I flipped out because I was young, and I said, you're making them innocent before they're proven guilty. Threw my keys on the ground. I said, I quit. You're not going to treat people this way. It's wrong. He got very upset with me, and he said, please pick up your keys. I need you. And he picked up the keys, and he wrote an email to the governor of the state I was in, the president of the university, copy to me, him, and to the federal government, and said that we were going to comply with this request. However, we were doing this under duress as we felt it was physically, morally, and emotionally wrong to the people that are extending our knowledge about the natural world. My scientists thought it was stupid. They were just like, yeah, whatever, and they just signed it off and they left. They didn't care because they were involved in what they were doing. I was more concerned about removing their intellectual freedom and their liberties. My daughter was 2, and I quit on the spot. No visible means of support. My ex-wife was starting to have her health concerns, so that was pretty tough for me. The other story I can tell you about Paul was that when this is when technology was new, okay? And what he did was he went all the way to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. This is the guy that would go to Glacier National Park every year to go cross-country skiing. This is the guy that used to hike the Grand Canyon down and up at least once every 3 years. This is the guy that broke his leg getting his ice climbing certification on Mount Washington. All right? He was a natural guy, really into nature. So much that he achieved his Eagle Scout at the age of 12. Westinghouse Science Grant at 14, making solar panels, and his garage. Syracuse University at 17, achieved his undergraduate in 3 years. He then achieved his master's in 18 months, and then he decided, after meeting his beautiful wife, who I love to tears, to take 2 PhDs at the same time. Took 5 years, got 2 PhDs at the same time, and then became the dean of students at a medical school that didn't even have a block of stone put into the ground yet. That was East Carolina. This guy was a beast. His degrees were in environmental science and forestry. He was working on Cray computers to create the world in a box and then change the variables and see what would happen. Real science, not climate change. No, real damn science. Putting liquid nitrogen into the computer, changing the variables, and running the experiment out and seeing what happened. That was a guy who cared about the planet. And I miss him every day. And I also know that he would be extremely disappointed right now in the state and quality of the art of medicine, people in general. He would be probably hurting because he would be seeing them commit a form of intellectual suicide. and that made me sad. Now, because this is getting a little long and I got to feed the kids, we may be making a change to our channel. I'm not seeing a lot of people chatting back. I'm not seeing a lot of people opening conversations. I'm not seeing a lot of people watching, except when I drive, which means either what I'm saying is banging off of your heads and you're not paying attention to it, or you just don't give a shit. Right? Otherwise, we'd be growing, we'd be sharing information with others, and we would be expanding our community. So I'm going to consider that I may not do daily videos anymore. I may do twice weekly. Maybe that'll help. Maybe I'm talking too much and you all are participating too little. Again, if I don't feel like I'm contributing in the room, I leave the room. And so we've got to consider that as an option. So, like I said, the kids are going to take a little snooze. We're not going to see them today. I'm going to get ready to feed them. We need to really deeply consider a couple different things. What you're going to do, how we're going to move forward. And for me, it's going to be, if I'm talking and you're not listening, then why am I talking? Why am I spending 16 minutes having a conversation when you don't give a shit? That doesn't make any sense to me. So, let's sign off the right way so I can feed the kids. If you don't take care of you, nobody else will. Thanks, Mom. Are they like-minded? Do they share your values? Do they have something to offer? Or no, out you go. It's too late for that. You wanted it this way? You got it. We have nothing to offer you. Shut the door. So, it's Thursday. Like I said, once I get home, I'll make my decision on how, between today and tomorrow, how we're going to proceed forward. Because like I said, if we're not growing, we're not opening a community, we're not sharing this information, and nobody seems to be giving a crap, well then, why should I? Sounds good, right? Sounds like a better way to reclaim my time. Maybe yours too. Have a good Thursday.